Think about the last amazing meal you ate. You chew, you swallow, and boom, it hits the stomach. Now, most of us kind of think the stomach is the star of the show doing all the heavy lifting, but in reality, the stomach is really just the receiving bay. I mean, it mashes things up a bit, sure, but the real magic, the actual extraction of the energy that keeps you alive, happens immediately after. Once that food leaves the stomach, well, that's when the real processing begins.
So welcome to the GI tract. I really want you to picture an automated, high-tech factory where absolutely nothing is left to chance. Literally every single microscopic cell has a highly specific job title, a shift schedule, and a precise set of instructions. During our tour of this incredible facility today, we're going to be looking at the vast processing floors, the specialized chemical vats that break down raw materials, and the brilliant neurological intercom system that keeps this whole assembly line running without you ever having to consciously think about it.
Let's start right here on the main processing floor. This is your small intestine, and this massive floor is actually divided into 3 highly specialized sectors. First, right out of the stomach, we've got the duodenum. That's the rapid chemical mixing zone. Then we move into the jejunum, which is where the bulk of the actual nutrient absorption happens. And finally, the line wraps up in the ileum, kind of like the final quality control area that catches whatever's left over. It's just a perfectly organized, multi-stage conveyor belt.
Now, you know that to maximize efficiency, a good factory needs maximum workspace, right? If the inside of your intestine was just a smooth, flat pipe, a whole lot of valuable nutrients would just slide right past and go to waste. But biology solved this so brilliantly. The walls are folded, and on top of those folds are even smaller folds, and on top of those are microscopic hairs called microvilli. This creates what we call the brush border. It drastically increases the surface area, literally making it about the size of a tennis court, all neatly folded up inside you just to catch every single nutrient.
When we actually zoom in with an electron microscope, you can literally see these microscopic fingers in action. Just look at how densely packed they are. This isn't just some abstract textbook concept. This is the literal microscopic architecture of your biology. These tiny structures are out there right now, waiting to catch and absorb carbohydrates and proteins from your lunch, pulling them straight into your bloodstream. How cool is that?
But of course, an automated factory is absolutely nothing without its specialized workforce, right? So let's meet the amazing team manning the intestinal epithelium. This is basically the lining of your gut, and let me tell you, it is an absolute hive of activity. Every single cell here has a highly specific job title, and they all work together in total harmony to digest your food, absorb those nutrients, and keep bad bacteria out.
Let's look at the company roster here. Down in the foundational crypts, we have stem cells acting as the hiring managers, constantly dividing and creating fresh new cells. Then, we've got the pennate cells. These are your security guards, armed with antimicrobial proteins to fight off any nasty pathogens that might sneak in with your food. You've also got goblet cells, essentially the maintenance team, secreting this thick mucus to keep the line lubricated and safe. And finally, the enterocytes, the heavy-lifting absorption workforce that actually pulls the nutrients across the border. It really is a beautifully coordinated team.
However, a factory can't break down complex, tough raw materials using physical labor alone. You're going to need potent chemical solvents. I mean, if you swallow a piece of steak, your enterocytes can't exactly absorb that whole. It needs to be melted down into microscopic amino acids and fatty acids. And that is exactly where our chemical manufacturing plant, the exocrine pancreas, steps into the picture.
So, your pancreas creates these incredibly powerful digestive enzymes. But here's the catch. If the pancreas produced fully active enzymes that melt proteins, it would literally digest itself. No way we want that. So the pancreas strictly regulates its chemical toolkit. It sends out safe, completely inactive pro-enzymes, things like trypsinogen, into the intestine. They act as totally harmless transit cargo, ensuring the factory machinery stays perfectly intact while en route.
So the absolutely crucial question here is, how do these safe chemicals suddenly turn into active food-melting machines once they safely reach the intestinal floor? Well, they need an activator. Located right on that brush border we talked about earlier is a special enzyme called enteropeptidase. Think of it as a biological keycard. When the harmless trypsinogen floats by, enteropeptidase swipes the keycard, unlocking it and instantly transforming it into active trypsin. And that trypsin then goes right to work dismantling your dinner. It's just a perfect safety mechanism.
Okay, so with so many moving parts, different departments, and harsh chemicals, how does this massive, winding factory actually talk to itself?
You definitely can't have the stomach sending down more food if the small intestine is already totally full. So, to prevent those kinds of traffic jams, the gut relies on an incredibly advanced autonomic intercom system. It's basically an entire localized brain inside your gut, communicating via special reflexes to keep everything perfectly synced up.
One of the most important intercom announcements is the gastrocolic reflex. The very moment food hits your stomach, the stomach gets stretched. It instantly picks up the radio and sends a signal all the way down the line to the colon, saying, "Hey, a new shipment just arrived up here. We need you guys to clear out some space at the bottom." This stimulates mass movements in the colon to make room for the new meal. It's just amazing foresight built right into your nervous system.
Meanwhile, the local managers on the intestinal floor get to dictate the physical movement of the assembly line. They basically have two main options. They can use mixing contractions, which effectively pauses the line and slowly churns the food back and forth to make sure it gets fully saturated with those pancreatic juices. Or, when it's finally time to move on, they switch to propulsing contractions. Driven by hormones like gastrin and motilin, these peristaltic waves efficiently push the entire batch forward to the very next department.
But what if the assembly line is moving a little too fast? What if the small intestine gets overwhelmed and just needs a minute to catch up? Well, brilliantly, the gut actually comes equipped with emergency brakes. For example, if the end of the small intestine, the ileum, detects that there's still way too much undigested food coming through, it triggers the ileo brake. It literally radios back up to the stomach and says, "Whoa, boss, slow down the shipments. Give us a minute down here to catch up."
As we reach the end of the main processing floor, absolutely everything must pass through a highly strict security checkpoint called the ileocecal valve, or sphincter. This is a one-way gate. It opens via a reflex prompted by pressure and fluidity to let processed contents exit the small intestine, but then it clamps shut immediately to prevent anything from backing up the wrong way.
Once we pass through that checkpoint, we've officially left the main processing floor of the small intestine and entered the final stage, the colon. Welcome to the factory's packaging department. At this point, almost all the usable nutrients, the sugars, the fats, the proteins, they've already been stripped away and absorbed. What's left is mostly liquid waste and indigestible fiber. So the mission here changes entirely.
In the colon, the primary goal is reclamation. The factory desperately needs to reclaim all the valuable water and electrolytes that were used during digestion so you don't dehydrate. As the water is sucked back into your body, the waste is slowly compacted, forming feces. And because this is a dehydration and storage process, things slow way down here. Instead of constant churning, the colon relies on slow mixing, with large mass movements occurring just 1 to 3 times a day to push the product toward the exit.
But hey, the colon isn't just a drying tube. It's also home to literally billions of independent contractors. I'm talking about your microbiome. This vast, bustling city of helpful bacteria lives right there on the factory floor, and they feed on the complex fibers that your own enzymes just couldn't digest. And as a thank you for the free meal, they produce incredibly valuable short-chain fatty acids for your energy, and they synthesize essential vitamins like vitamin K and B vitamins, handing them right back to you. It's an incredible partnership.
After the water is reclaimed and the microbiome has done its work, the packaging department is basically finished. It's time for the finished product to reach the shipping dock, the rectum. By now, the body has safely and efficiently extracted every possible ounce of energy and nutrition, packaged the remaining waste, and prepped it for a highly coordinated exit strategy.
Now, this shipping network is exactly where autonomic reflexes finally meet your conscious control. The entire lower area is heavily wired into your central nervous system. Specifically, the pudendal nerve connects right at the S2 to S4 levels of your spinal cord. This dual wiring is absolutely vital. It allows your body to automatically sense when the shipping dock is full, while still giving your conscious brain the ultimate override on when it's socially appropriate to open those loading bay doors.
The final shipping process is a brisk, perfectly orchestrated sequence of events. First, the waste stretches the rectum, which triggers the signal straight to the brain. In response, the defecation reflex fires, causing the involuntary internal sphincter to relax. Then, when you decide the time is right, you consciously relax the external sphincter. Finally, a voluntary increase in abdominal pressure, which we medically call the Valsalva maneuver, completes the job, efficiently clearing out the dock.
And there we have it. From the security guard Panath cells protecting your gut, to the ingenious enteropeptidase keycard, to the intercom reflexes coordinating the assembly line, your lower digestive system truly is a marvel of biological engineering. It is a tireless, completely automated smart factory working 24/7 to keep you alive. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. Considering you only really control the very last set of doors on the shipping dock, who is actually running the factory? You or the trillions of autonomous microbes and automated reflexes operating entirely in the dark? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering and keep learning.